Well, thank you, Drew Holcomb, for speaking with us at Deep Ellum Radio and Buddy Magazine. We're very excited because we are backstage at the beautiful Ascend Amphitheater in Music City before you come to Texas a whole bunch of times.
Yes.
Which we'll get into shortly. We just saw you on the cover of the Nashvilleian when we were at Americana Fest. You have a new album out, Strangers No More. Your Moon River Music Festival is approaching the 10th anniversary of its founding. And it's the 20th anniversary of recording your debut EP. Mm-hmm. So you've had quite the banner year.
Yes, that's right. A lot of anniversaries in there.
Yeah. And you've got 5 shows coming to Texas. October 20th at Tannahill in Fort Worth. October 21st at the Waco Hippodrome. Yep. And then in the spring, April 25th at Scoot Inn in Austin. April 26th at White Oak Music Hall in Houston. And April 27th at the Longhorn Ballroom in Dallas, very close to my apartment, in the most historic live music venue in Texas. Even had their own panel at Americana Fest.
Did they really?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, yes.
I'm excited about that one. I know they just reopened.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dallas has always had great venues, but I'm specifically looking forward to that show.
Yeah. Well, why don't we start out with that before we circle back to what brings us here in this building. You're playing all over Texas, and we just before we started talked about Deep Ellum, which I'm representing specifically, and of course Deep Ellum Radio, and you have memories specifically with Deep Ellum.
Yeah,
you'd like to share.
I think my first show ever in the state of Texas was at the AllGood Cafe. Wow. Maybe 2004 or 5.
Okay.
And then there was a coffee shop. I'm totally blanking. I would have had it in my head.
Was it Murray Street?
No, it wasn't Murray Street. It was in the South Side.
Oh, Cafe Brazil?
Maybe Cafe Brazil. I don't know. Can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, and then through the years we played all over Texas. But there's something about the songwriting history in Texas that I think our music connected pretty early with people there. The narrative piece, the bar bands, there's so much great history, and Texas has as much, maybe parallels or equals Tennessee. It's probably the only other place.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Michigan with Detroit and everything. But as soon as I started getting the opportunity to go play in Texas, we started doing that. So now it's on pretty much every tour, and thrilled to come back down there and continue to build on that sort of story that we've been building there for almost 20 years or 21 years.
It's funny that you mentioned the chill aspect because as someone who didn't grow up, I'm from Cleveland, where it's funny because I guess we would picture Yosemite Sam and stuff for Texas, and then now I go back and I'm like, gosh, people are so much more like brash here back home than in Texas. Deep Ellum can vary. Sometimes it's not so chill, depending on where you go. But that's wonderful. I mean, 2004 or 5 would have been right around when I think it was 2000. Mike Snider, my buddy, is the owner, so I'll have to check with him. But that's awesome.
Well, I had
this back that far.
My favorite Texas interaction I ever had was I just moved to Nashville, and I got invited via a friend to a very small gathering for Guy Clark's birthday. And so Guy Clark's sitting there, and I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to talk to him. So I'm sitting there, he's hand rolling a cigarette. And I was like, so Guy, I'm a songwriter here in town, new guy, I'm 25 years old. Who were you listening to when you were 25? And he goes, me.
Oh my gosh. That's like
Isn't that great?
Evocative of Prince, I feel like, would say something like that. Although he probably shout out Sly and the Family Stone a couple, but that's awesome. Yeah. And Deep Ellum this year, we're celebrating the 150th anniversary. So I don't know if you've heard this or not, but when you come to town, it's not quite ready yet, but hopefully in the spring, when you're at the Longhorn Ballroom, very close by, there's going to be a 1930s style recording studio where you can cut a lacquer record. And it's part of a historic thing, and you get a digital copy.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Where our new community center is right by oh my gosh, the theater. It's been a long day.
That's okay. Sons of Herman.
We love Sons of Herman. Yeah, and with Charlie Crockett, blowing up in the music video, he did that. Our new community center is right by the Majestic.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
We played there before. So
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to look into that as April approaches. But in the meantime, you do have your new album, Strangers No More, that just came out this summer. And congratulations on the #1
Thank you.
Americana Radio single, Find Your
Our
People.
first, 20 years. Takes 20 years.
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, and I'm going to revisit that because I was thinking a lot about, the shifts of the last 20 years for a bunch of things.
Mhm.
Hold that thought. Find Your People. As I was reading the lyrics of that song in particular and thinking about how it resonated with me, and I'm sure, obviously many other people as it went #1.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about some applications like, the Instagram era and the dating apps era and, the studies that come out about feelings of loneliness and things.
Yeah.
So I went down my own rabbit hole, but I'm not the songwriter.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what provoked that in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I was writing with a good friend of mine named Kevin Rhodes, and we got to talking about this strange thing that we both have experienced, which is, everybody's so connected, but they're more isolated than ever before. I think there's less real relationship, and there's more like, I kind of know that person because I follow them on Instagram, or I know what they're up to because of, whatever social media stuff. And one thing that the pandemic did for me and my family was it actually, we spent less time on those apps and everything else, and actually spent more time with just a core group of our little pod of a couple other families. And he and I were talking about that. He said, I just feel like you guys have found your people. I was like, yeah, we definitely found our people. And also, hey, that's like, there's a song in here, a song about friendship, a song about trust. It's also a song about my band. I mean, I've been on the road with these guys, some of them for 20 years, and most of them for at least a half a dozen years. And in this era of chaos and political division, cultural upheaval, and just a divisive, lonely time, I think for a lot of people, myself included at times, when you do have people, it feels really it feels like a gift. And so it's a song about that. It's a song about how much that is sort of necessary and how much it means. And it's, it's a preaching song, but it's like preaching to myself, so.
I read something recently that somebody said about dating apps and how they said it feels like a part-time job at this point, with the abundance of options. So you would think it would be a lot easier now.
You're always looking at the better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know the dating apps thing.
Right.
I've been married. I'm pretty young. I'm 41, but I've been married for almost 20 years. So
I'm envious.
But I have lots of friends.
It's rough out there.
Yeah, I have lots of friends and even bandmates who are single, and even though there's more like potential ways to connect with other people, it feels like harder than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm honestly just grateful that that's not my situation.
Yeah.
But I've got kids, and so I've got to know about it. So when they hit those years, I can engage, in that. So.
Well, and so I was thinking about some of your pre-COVID catalog, and a song like Family in particular, and, because we were just talking about the adjustments you've made in this decade, and I think a lot of us have been going through reprioritization and epiphanies and all sorts of things. And in light of COVID and all those losses that have been sustained, I'm thinking about how that song, I see why it was a hit then, but now I think about how many, families have lost members to, this horrible illness or, have you noticed that certain songs in your pre-COVID catalog, now that you're back on the road, resonate with people differently than they had before? Yeah,
it's one in particular is a song called End of the World, which pre-COVID felt like sort of a joke. Like it was an ironic, sarcastic song about, hey, it's the end of the world, everybody's, like everybody thought it's not like 2019 was like some banner great year for humanity. So when
I agree.
So it's like, especially like, early 2020, there was January 6th and I guess that was 21. Yeah, but there's been a lot of like stuff besides COVID that has been difficult. But I remember that song Into the World kind of had this sarcastic, ironic representation and experience. And now people sing it and they're like, I mean, but is it, you know, it kind of feels like it sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's like a great sort of joke between the audience now and that song, and everybody sings the chorus about as loud as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think family, it's interesting because I feel like one of the beautiful things about the era that we live in is that people have found, sometimes they find their family in ways that are not necessarily the traditional, you know, blood. Like, you know, we, for instance, while I am very close to my blood family, I also feel like I've got friends that feel like family, and my band feels like family. Mm-hmm. So when I sing that song, I'm not just singing about the blood, I'm singing about like the other ties that bind us together, mm-hmm. whether it's your work or your neighborhood or your, you know, your common interests and your hobbies that you share with people. So there's a lot of ways to connect. So that song feels like it's bigger than just like, oh, this is a song about your brothers, sisters, and kids and parents and stuff.
Right.
So that's been cool. And then, you know, a song like Dragons, I feel like has sort of stood the test of pre and post, and it still feels like it's a song about people overcoming difficult things in their lives. Mm-hmm. And it's this cool narrative about meeting the ghost of my grandfather and him giving me this piece of advice. The difference between Strangers No More, though, and that pre-COVID stuff was that I think a lot of those songs were very external. They were about external relationships. They were about external, you know, life things. Whereas Strangers No More was very much sort of a little bit more of an internalized conversation with myself, mm-hmm. About getting older, about the passage of time, about dealing with, you know, the song Troubles I wrote right after Uvalde, which obviously is in Texas. As somebody who lives in Texas, you understand like the weight of that, but as a father too, it was like, man, this is so tough. These, you know, kids are going to school, and then so I wrote that song about just wanting to escape all of the troubles that we find ourselves in. And so I was allowing myself like the fun of songs like Find Your People and All the Money in the World, but also the sort of introspection of Troubles and Fly and others. And then musically, we allowed ourselves to sort of play in lots of sandboxes. You know, All the Money's got this sort of classic Memphis thing going on, and Dance With Everybody's got this sort of, you know, Graceland, Paul Simon vibe, and then On a Roll's got this sort of big Springsteen U2 thing. So we kind of allowed ourselves to just do whatever we wanted musically, recorded 20-something songs, and then we thought they wouldn't necessarily fit together, but then when you have the same band playing together, it all works together, even though sort of genre-wise it's kind of all over the map, which is part of the beauty of whatever we call Americana, is that there's not a lot of rules, mm-hmm. you know. So.
Well, and so that's going to be a great segue to things we talked about before, is I was thinking about, you know, your first EP being recorded in 2003, mm-hmm. and, you know, Americana Fest, we just covered, and it's I think it was the 23rd anniversary, or 23rd annual, and so I was thinking about, gosh, you know, when you recorded that first EP, you know, that was in its infancy. It was right before social media. It was certainly before the streaming services. A lot, and I feel like you know, America, you know, sociopolitically, a lot's changed. You look at even the election of 2004, you know, Bush and Cheney on the Republican side, and the Democrat side, it was John Kerry and John Edwards. Like,
pretty traditional, like, run-of-the-mill election cycle.
Yes, exactly. So what are your, you know, as someone who's been through so many changes, I'm wondering, you know, do you feel like, has it gotten more conducive, I guess, to your objective? And then also, you know, have there been things that have endured all those massive changes in society in general, but that genre in particular?
Well, I think at the end of the day, like, what Americana is, and to me, is it's a big tent for people who have something. What they have to say is more important than getting famous or getting rich. Like, and not that that's every like pop artist or country artist's dream, but there's not really a route in Americana to like major mainstream success. I mean, there's obviously been some exceptions to that, but the music is sort of the main point, and it's, you know, it's oftentimes like performed and written by the same person or the same group of people, and so there's a tangible piece of, and there's so many artists that had a spot on the radio in the 70s, the Van Morrisons and Jackson Browns, that
Emmylou Harris
is, that probably wouldn't have a home necessarily if they were making those records now. And so the fact that there is this sort of big tent is really neat. I do feel like oftentimes I really don't like the sort of political polarization that seems to be happening a lot of, like, oh, country is right and Americana is left, and it's like, hold on a minute, music, you know, is a really big tent, and every individual that makes music has a different point of view, and I'm of the sort of opinion that while on social media or in interviews I may share a political point of view, that I like to save the show. I like to let the music speak at the show. And so now again, that's me. I'm not saying that's how it should be.
Right.
But it would be a loss to me if there was like if you listen to this, then that means 100% X is your.
You don't make
cultural,
partisan music, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, maybe I do, but I don't intentionally. I hope my music is like provocative. Like every musician wants their music to be somewhat provocative, but some ways I want it to be provocative towards, like, you know, like Find Your People song. I want to be provocative. People put their phones away and enjoy their friends for a night, regardless of who they are. You know what I mean? Like, my favorite moments with music are like sitting around with friends and like sharing songs that we love, and, you know, sit in the bus after shows, and it used to be called Pass the Aux when you had the aux cable, and, you know, everybody plays a song through the stereo.
I thought you meant Oregon Trail with that.
Yeah, no, the auxiliary. But now you just do Bluetooth, but it's the same sort of thing, as everybody plays a song that they love and what, you know, kind of what it means to them. And I just think music has is a powerful instrument of healing, and it has been that for me my entire life. And so I've never made music to try to fit into a certain category. I've just made the music that I love that sort of reflects what I need to hear and see, and what I see in the world. And I've found that so for some reason a lot of people are like, oh, your music's so hopeful, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it is, but maybe that's what I need to hear, you know. Hopefully it's provocative in that way instead of the opposite direction.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think, you know, I just interviewed recently Shirley Manson from Garbage.
Yeah.
You know, and when they came out with, you know, Only Happy When It Rains and Stupid Girl and stuff, and so she was talking about the provocation of the time, and, you know, they came out around, you know, what Marilyn Manson did and so on, and she said, you know, like a song like Stupid Girl, she's like, it really could have been Stupid Person or something, but we were trying to be provocative, and there was so much concern about being like a sellout or being, you know, like the pretension then was, you know, I guess not being provocative, and then the pendulums kind of swung the other way, where, you know, something to the core, you know, something simple as family celebrating that is kind of provocative today in a way that it wouldn't have been back then. Right,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap with what brings us here, which is you opening for Darius Rucker in Music City. You have played several shows with him. And he's really remarkable because he's managed to do the being associated with, you know, rock, folk, and country. And I guess Hootie the Blowfish, you would have been
high school. Early high school.
Yeah. So was that part of your? Well, they didn't have playlists then.
I mean,
the way they do now.
On your what was it? Mixtapes. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you couldn't be like a music listener for about 3 years there and not have Hootie the Blowfish like be on your radar. And so I moved to town, and this is probably right around the time that I think Darius started his country career around 2008. So I'd been here a couple of years, and it's been really fun because the song that I sing with him on stage every night is his first country hit. And it's really neat because there's a lot of things I really love about this tour. I mean, we did it all summer. First off, it is that his band and his crew and him, they're all just super hospitable and generous. Sometimes openers can feel a little bit sort of like, you know, cornered away, don't bother us, don't touch our stuff, don't eat our food, don't whatever. And theirs has been the complete opposite of that. Just, you know, you're a part of the family, what's ours is yours. And that's been really beautiful. I think that always like comes down from the top, you know. So Darius has obviously like been a really generous and hospitable person to us. But the other thing I love, which back to your earlier talking about, is they're one of the few bands in sort of contemporary country music that what you hear on stage, what you hear out in the crowd is happening on stage in real time. There's no tracks, there's no like gimmicks. It's just a great band of great musicians playing this batch of great songs. And they obviously do some of the big Hootie songs. But he's had, I don't know, a dozen hits on country radio as well. And yeah, it's been fun. I mean, when I moved to town as a Memphis folk kid, I kind of shoot away from country. I don't want to be associated with it. But as those lines have broken down, like a lot of these guys I've found out that some of these big country artists are fans of my music. And so I started sort of allowing myself to listen. I'm like, man, these are actually there's some great songs and some great musicians in this world. And so it's been a great sort of eye-opener to me of just the great people and the great music that exists in sort of popular country music as well. And I've enjoyed that sort of change of scenery for us. And their fans are great. They love music, so that's been fun as well to build sort of a new audience for us. But we also we did that most of the summer. Then we started our headline run and kind of came back this weekend to do a couple more. And it's been great also to get back out with our fans in places like Tannahill, these smaller, intimate places, these clubs where there's just this palpable energy for the songs that they know of ours, which is very different than playing for people that are hearing you maybe for the first time.
Do you think you'll have some migas at AllGood before you go to Longhorn Ballroom?
Yeah, some what?
Migas? That's what I get at AllGood.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I haven't been in 20 years, so I guess, okay. I should go down the street and pick up some food.
Well, I have a guest spot in my gated parking lot, which is very coveted in Deep Ellum. So
nice.
If you want to swing by before making it to Longhorn, just hit me up.
Yeah.
So, well, congratulations on this exciting tour with Darius and, the penultimate show in Music City. And we look forward to you kicking off more headlining dates, including in the Lone Star State, where you're going to be playing several times. And of course, we'll list them in the text.
Awesome.
So
thanks for having me.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
And break away.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.